Okay, everyone, time for our final lesson of the day then. So it's science. And last week you were thinking all about different types of nutrition. So thinking all about food. And you might remember as well that we began thinking about our Eat Well plate. And that was where we thought about some different food groups. So we're going to start just by having a bit of a recap of that. So why do we need food then, as well as being really lovely and tasty? It helps us to grow, it helps us to be strong, and it helps us to be healthy. So all sorts of really, really good reasons for us to be eating our lovely food. So as I mentioned then, we thought about our 5 main food groups last time. Can you remember what they are? Maybe have a pause of the video and see what you can remember. So some of the ones we looked at then, fruit and vegetables, they made up around a third of our plate. That means they should take up around a third of our diet. Carbohydrates there, again, taking up around a third. And then we had down the bottom in pink our proteins, and in blue our dairy products, and a little bit of oils and spreads as well. And we mentioned that our foods that are salt in, high in sugar, they're kind of outside of our plate because our body doesn't need them to survive. They're just sometimes nice. So yeah, fruit and vegetables, carbohydrates, oils and spreads, dairy and alternatives, and our proteins. And this was very much the work that we did last week. Hopefully you have been keeping your own food diary and you've been thinking a little bit about how what type of food you're eating, and maybe that's helped you to sort of identify maybe some gaps if you weren't getting enough of some things. Maybe that's just helped you to kind of reflect on your own eating at home. So what we're going to be looking at today then, we're going to sort of delve in a little bit deeper in some of this, and we're going to think about the particular nutrients we get from food. Now, we've talked about the different food groups. That's a really good way of thinking about our food and grouping them together in similar types. But nutrients are the substances which we need to stay alive. So these are particular things that foods will give us. Now, some of those we've already kind of mentioned by name, things like carbohydrates and protein, but others can be gained from all sorts of different sources. So let's look in a little bit more detail at what these 7 main nutrients that humans need to survive are. So protein, this is something we've looked at last week, and it has its own kind of food group. So proteins are those foods that help our body to grow and repair, really good for our muscles. And foods that are high in protein might be things like red meat, fish, beans, and yogurt. All of those would be fantastic for giving us protein. Next one we're going to think about, and again, this is one with its own food group, carbohydrates. I said last week, this was our slow release energy. So it's things like bread, pasta, fruit, potatoes, all of these things you can get carbohydrates from. Now you might be going, hang on a minute, I don't think fruit's a carbohydrate. I put that in its own section. Well, of course you are right, because something like an apple shown there is absolutely a fruit. That would come in our fruit and vegetables food group. But something you might not know is that that can also provide carbohydrates. That has some other nutrients in it as well. Now here, this one might surprise you. One nutrient which we do need is fats. There are different types of fats, and obviously some of them are better for us than others, but we do need a certain amount of fat in our diet. Now again, that might seem a bit counterintuitive. Maybe you think that sort of all fats are bad. There are some useful ones for us to have, and certainly a really good benefit of fat in our diet, or a small amount of fat in our diet, is that it can give us energy. Next one we're going to think about is vitamins. Now, vitamins are really important for keeping our body healthy, and all sorts of different foods will contain vitamins. So things like oranges, carrots, lots of your fruit and veg, that will definitely contain vitamins. You might be surprised to find there's some in things like beef, nuts. All of these things can contain vitamins. Minerals is our next one. Again, minerals are really important for keeping our body healthy. So foods high in minerals might include milk, spinach, salt, and sweet corn. And a really, really important one here, which we all know about, is water. Water helps to move the nutrients around in our body and get rid of the waste that we don't need. It is an essential nutrient for our survival. We all need it. Although it's really important to drink plenty of water each day, you do actually get lots of water from your food as well. So particularly things like tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, strawberries, might be surprising to find out that actually there's an awful lot of water in foods like that. And so that will provide some of the water that your body needs, but you certainly do need to keep your hydration levels up by drinking lots as well. Fiber now. Fiber helps you to digest the food that you have eaten. So fiber, really, really good. Foods that are high in fiber can include cereal, apples, whole grain bread, and lentils. So again, we're seeing here that some foods will kind of appear in more than one thing here. So things like apples, we've seen in several of these. So apples is giving us lots of the useful things that our body needs. It's not the case that foods from one food group will only provide one nutrient. Foods in one food group can actually provide a whole range of nutrients, particularly the sort of ones that are really good for us, like fruit and vegetables. So yeah, just as we said there, within each food group, there are many foods which contain more than one type of nutrient. So what I'd like you to do now, let me show you on other screen. What you're going to do today is you're going to try to present the information that we have found out. So I'd like you to make a table a little bit like this one, where you can feel free to go back over the video, and you're going to name the different 7 nutrients which we have looked at. You're going to say where we can get it from and why we need it. Now, although I've laid this out in a fairly sort of plain looking table, you can present this in any way you wish. So maybe in that where we get it from, you can draw the foods. Maybe you can sort of color code it. You can do each section in a different color. It's up to you how you present it, but that's the information we're going to try to get down. We're going to try to get our 7 nutrients, and we're going to say where we get it and why we need it. So have fun with your science today, and I will see you back on our YouTube channel for tomorrow.